Hello, everybody. Welcome back to week number 5 of stage 3 of the Quake Pro League, where up next it's going to be Effortless and ZenAku. My name's Ketchup, and I'm joined by Lethal today. We already had a very dominant series number 1 between Avec and Hron. Avec able to take that with a convincing 3-0. We're going to see if it's going to be a little bit closer now, or whether maybe the theme of the day is just going to be blowouts. What do you reckon, Harry?
It's going to be a difficult one now because Effortless and ZenAku, they're both two players who are like trying to at least try to establish themselves in the North American scene. But even then, ZenAku has been progressing quite well. At the start, it was a bit like, I don't know, like what's going to happen here. But you can see like his aim and aggression is good, but the way he approaches certain situations is a little bit off key. But even now, he has been getting better. He has been taking maps off some of his opponents slowly but surely, which has kind of boosted his confidence. And Effortless, slightly different, but he's been grinding like mad for the last couple of months, just trying to prove himself. He said it himself with the fact that he doesn't want to be these one of these players who are like trying to balance out of relegation or trying to stay away from it. He wants to actually be one of those players where he can get that first place spot or try and get on the top half and really try and prove himself. So both these players have got, a few reasons to prove, I feel.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Because if you're in the Pro League, we reached a point where maybe it was in, perhaps stage 1, where players must have felt, and well, I say must have, they very much did feel very fortunate to kind of be in that position. You could see that, I think, expressed massively on like social media and stuff like that, where they appreciated being part of the experience, and it's now we can grow. But now we're 3 stages in, we've reached a point where, look, Effortless, he's still here, right? He knows he's good enough to hang with the rest of the Americas, and he is looking stronger and stronger by the week. However, ZenAku, new to stage 3, who is really kind of having to prove himself in this stage. I am curious by the picks and bans, highly curious by the picks and bans, mostly because of champion usage. ZenAku, if anyone has already seen the schedule or seen what his picks are, we have a Keel, then a Clutch, and then a Scale Bearer. With the exception of Sorlag, we basically have the biggest champions all in this lineup, and he's using all 3 of them. Like, it's pretty insane, and I think this is one of the first times we've ever seen someone rock 100% heavy all the way through.
Yeah, I'm not even going to say it's a very rare occurrence. I'm going to have to agree with you. I don't think I have either. Don't get me wrong. Someone's probably going to prove me wrong now you've just said that.
I mean, there's been plenty of weeks for it to not happen, but it's one of the first, if not the first.
Yeah, it is balmy, but even then, I'm curious to see, what he actually does with those champions in terms of execution or playing passive or doing the chip damage and to see what he can do. But ZenAku, it's like I mentioned earlier, he has been progressing slowly but surely. His aggression has been improving. His aim has been following through the same as aggression, but the problem was he wasn't strategically using it to its full potential. It was, he needs to make it a little bit more complex in terms of his movement, but he has been doing that. He has been showing a lot of improvement. So Effortless needs to really be careful. But Effortless is another person where he's shown that real skill and aggression. The ceiling has been going up and up and up. It's just been going up the ladder continuously over the last few weeks. So ZenAku needs to be really careful. I feel like for both of these players, it's a must win to kind of avoid that relegation spot.
I actually had to quickly refresh my memory because I'm sure I'd seen it. When I'd seen ZenAku playing Clutch, it got me remembering an old video that I watched 2 years ago, and it is ZenAku used to make some strategy guides, like strategy and tips kind of guides, a couple of years ago for Quake Champions, and one of the first videos I saw was like a clutch movement tips and tricks video, and that was a while ago, but it's really kind of explaining. I almost said exploiting. That's not the right word. Showing that ZenAku, he's been like somewhat of a teacher for that part of the world, which is always nice to see. I really do love seeing like competitive level players just release videos that kind of just shares the knowledge, because it's hugely beneficial for players that just aren't of that level or reaching to, aspiring to reach that level, which does happen. Quake Pro League is absolutely the highest opportunity you get to see what the best players in the world bring to the table. But it's always nice to see players kind of just bring that element of just sharing that knowledge, because it can be quite overwhelming with this kind of genre of game. Like, what should I be doing? When should I be doing it? But triple big body going in for ZenAku. I'm really excited to see it and curious to see if it works or not.
Well, I hope Effortless has been watching ZenAku's guides and everything like that, because it might help. Well, it probably won't help him anyway. I think everyone knows all the bits and bobs here and there.
Damn, there's 2 years out of date information. Damn it. I would have beat him if not for that.
If it was only last month he made the video. But no, this is going to be really interested to see how things pan out as we go forward.
Okay, well, looks like we're loading into Vale of Nath, map number 1. This is a map that you will see Keelon. Worth mentioning that champion lineup alone, it's not going to be something that, you know, I don't think there's going to be any gimmicks here. I truly think that it's the right pick for the map in his eyes. And Keel, if there's one map you're consistently ready to see Keel do damage on, it is Vale. Because, I mean, it's the tight corridors, it's the area denial, the grenades, they shred, absolutely delete. But I'm checking out Effortless first, see what he's bringing to the table here. ZenAku, the natural stack. That is one of the dangerous things about big bodies on Vale of Nath. If they spawn, they got a big stack to work with, and you've got to make sure that you're not tender after a frag, because they will refrag.
Yeah, when it comes to map geometry abusing, you could say, then Kill is definitely one of them, and you just saw a great example there, and gets to Mega to make matters worse. But even ZenAku is just trying to go straight to go for that second frag already. He's waiting patiently, but he's going to back off for now and trying to get a little bit more armor added to his stack. But you're right, though, we'll have to see what he can do down these narrow corridors. He knows his outfit, it's just a matter of how he's going to try and approach it, but does get that top map control. But then again, he's taking a lot of damage doing so.
But you can see Effortless was kind of forced to disengage here. He took a lot of damage earlier in the fight, which meant that he had to, you know, run around and take all the small stuff that was around near heavy. It gave ZenAku an opportunity to re-establish and pretty much take a free Mega in this situation. And again, those larger champions, entry damage can make such a huge difference. And Effortless on the retreat, forced to show so much respect and look for a tiny little rail angle. But as soon as you're out, you're out. You know, you have to back up. A couple more totems. 2 totems have been used, and they're both in some interesting locations, hard ones to find. ZenAku looking to get some immediate damage, but actually a great little exchange there for Effortless. ZenAku has pretty much failed to hit any important shot, with the exception of that one right at the end. Effortless doing a bit of unfortunate self-damage and losing out on some armor.
He definitely had the advantage there, but couldn't really capitalize on the situation, sorry. He's just on the top left now. He's just going to wait and see where Effortless can go here. But ZenAku's just plenty patient for the time being. Hasn't got the best of stacks, but he's more balanced out compared to where Effortless is. The fight is going to go and try and come in straight afterwards. But my words, Effortless knew that it wasn't in the best of situations there. Decides to back off for the time being. But look at this. ZenAku just waiting patiently to see if he does actually come through. Still knows he's there, but waiting for that chip damage for the rail. Decides to get that top map control instead. Prioritizing the Mega for the time being, but even then, ZenAku's just bouncing up and down just to try and see if he can just put him off a little bit. Decides to go for the heavy to begin with, but decides to leave it for the time being and get that Mega.
Looks like, oh, hang on, some braveness coming out there from Effortless. Rails all the way through in the SSG. Wonderful swap at the end. I mean, it's fair to assume, look, I've just hit 3 rails in this situation. I probably don't need much more. And a good spawn frag likely to come through. ZenAku weak. And another frag should be likely. Waits for the rail. Unfortunately, doesn't quite hit what could have been a free frag. But ZenAku overstaying as welcome, perhaps. Either that or betting the whole farm on hitting that one rail to potentially force Effortless away. And then maybe try and take the heavy. But either way, it didn't work out. Running out of ammo at the last possible second, but a clutch swap out there to the rocket is going to keep Effortless alive and well. But ZenAku, nice angle there, just to pick that one up. Closer than it perhaps should be in this situation.
Yeah, ZenAku's on form right now with the rail. He should be the one getting doing the spawn killing, not spawn killed. I was quite surprised in that kind of situation, but luckily he managed to pick up the rail and look exactly where it needs to be. But he does have the heavy to make matters worse for Effortless.
Oh,
going forward, but my goodness, an LG fight is going to come into play, but it looks like Effortless may lose out here depending on ZenAku pushes. No, he doesn't. Effortless just barely managed to survive on 7 HP, my word. But will he get traded off though? ZenAku's trying to do everything he can to try and clean this up. 1 HP! How's he not cleaned him up yet? Finally, Effortless just barely has to survive again. Sadly, ZenAku did not get the trade he so desperately desired here. And as we go into it, 7 HP now for Effortless. He's going to try and get as much damage done just to fake out the fact that he was actually quite weak, to say the least. But at least he's kept him back now, trying to do what he can to keep him back at this stage. My word, Effortless was so close to get taken down on a number of occasions.
You know, ZenAku in his mind right now is just thinking, how are you still alive? 3 separate opportunities where Effortless had basically nothing to work with. Somehow drags himself back into the fight, kicking and screaming. He's like, you know, I'm still here, dude. You ever seen the end of Scarface? Kind of like that.
I have done. And I completely agree.
Oh, damage on the opening. ZenAku, I mean, he's running the circuit on these items, but at this point, I mean, Effortless seems pretty content doing that. He's getting quite a lot of information here that ZenAku is not getting the damage that he perhaps should be in these situations. And at that point, if you know there's not as much damage likely going into some of these fights, Effortless is the one being really aggressive with significantly less stack. Because he just knows, I mean, there's less damage coming in, so realistically, what really does he have to fear?
Yeah, ZenAku right now has to be aggressive, but the thing about Effortless is the fact that his stack is balanced. But for the time being, as long as he has that top control and listen out for any audio cues, he should be fine depending on scenarios he tries to push himself in. But at this point in time, as Effortless with the slightly heavier stack, that rail is definitely going to help him through, and he's going to see if he can at least try and push up. ZenAku's had a few routines he's been repeatedly doing time and time again, but Effortless has to pull back at this point. He's only on 42 HP. ZenAku so desperately wanted to try and push up, but he knew in that kind of circumstance he couldn't actually be any more aggressive than he actually could. But he's going to pass out once again. ZenAku loves playing outside that rocket area near the teleporter. But Effortless needs to try and figure out a way on how to try and keep him at bay.
I'm just looking at how a lot of these fights are going, and I'm realizing that ZenAku it is the lack of damage has been his biggest downfall so far, which is unfortunate because that's the entire reason you pick Keel on this map, is because the grenades combined with everything else just delete much faster than most champions can muster. And you kind of combine that with a giant stack, and he is a very oppressive champion, quite a bully in that regard. And ZenAku hasn't really been able to make that shine in any way. Now, we're about to hit the end of this map, and Effortless, he can just kind of sit in now, dig his heels in, set up shop, listen out for, you know, as many audio cues as he can for ZenAku out and about. Deny when he can, hit those annoying rails. Doesn't quite hit that shot, which is going to allow ZenAku to be a little bit aggressive if he wants. There's a huge stack difference here, but the stack difference hasn't mattered so much so far, and that has been a consistent problem.
I love this from Effortless, so as soon as he hears anything or even a sign of ZenAku pushing up or even the potential chance, he will just back off. He'll shoot a couple of doors to make him think he's going one way or another. He's just playing with ZenAku's mind at this point. He's just been an absolute nuisance, and playing against players like that, it can be a bit of a pain, but at least Effortless is still contesting for the items. He is making sure that he isn't just picking it up straight away without having to deal with any issues or problems along the way. But even then, Effortless has got to seriously be careful. ZenAku's surely going to try and push up there, but again, Effortless keeps him at bay, keeps him in check, and it's so difficult at this point. Just needs to try and survive for 2 more minutes, but it's not like he's just sitting back the entire time. He is trying to contest the heavy and the mega now and again, but ZenAku at the same time is putting the pressure on to make sure that doesn't happen.
Cheeky fake jump pad as well there from Effortless. Using the jump pad and then immediately backing off, and ZenAku actually chased it immediately, looking for it. And it's all just time being wasted. Effortless has played this map phenomenally well. ZenAku, he's been in good positions, especially in the first half of this map. There were some real opportunities. And now he's going to powerhouse his way in. No choice, but he has to try. And now, I mean, that's got to be 1 HP. Let me quickly go check over. Oh, he was. He's on 26 now. But it's keeping him back, right? There's a 0% chance he can get his stack back up to fight with the way Effortless has approached. He's established full control. Even though there's, you know, only 3 frag of a difference, there's just too much work that ZenAku needs to do to even get this first frag to start a comeback. By all means, Effortless has to royally screw up if he's going to lose this map here.
Yeah, it's just his defensive rails, apart from that one we just saw. He just barely missed that one, and it's decided to leave the Mega, because there's a good chance when you get a Mega in that spot, you can get trapped to the LG and get taken down, completely understandable. But he is going to try and do whatever he can just to keep him on his toes a little bit. It seems like we'll be cat and mouse any time going, but he's still got 40 seconds. If ZenAku gets his frag here, he can really do himself a favour. He's only on 8 HP, finally, after all that time. ZenAku does manage to take him down, but this is the point in time where ZenAku needs to be super aggressive, take a huge amount of risks to try and put Effortless off guard and try and get something going. But Effortless defensive rails have just been really good.
Yeah, he needs to right place, right time. Absolutely in this situation. 20 seconds left on the clock. If ZenAku gets a frag right now, then maybe. But again, Effortless, he's going to use those audio cues. ZenAku tries to rocket jump his way in and catches the terrain. Bangs his poor little head. And unfortunately, that was a done deal right there. Effortless is going to take that map. It was not crazy one-sided, but certainly a comfortable win up until the last second when that last fight just didn't quite work out, did it?
No, it didn't. No, it was just textbook work from Effortless. Look at the item control in comparison. Like, you've got 23 for ZenAku in terms of the heavy and the megas, only 14 for Effortless. But, you know, he was keeping him on his toes. He knew full well that if he did take the risk and contested it a little bit too long or too much, ZenAku will just basically stomp him, and it was understandable. So he'd rather try and back away. He was just playing with his mind the whole time. I love how he used the doors for the audio cues to make him think it's gone one way or another. Just making sure that at least let him play the guessing game at all times. And the best thing was Effortless wasn't using the same routes in the routine he would normally do. He would always change up at all times. He wasn't always sitting in one place at every single moment. He was keeping him, just like I said earlier, just making sure he's unorthodox depending on his defensive plays. But his defensive rails were, you know, more than worth it. It helped him at every single moment in time, especially when he was up top contesting the heavy.
So we're going into Blood Covenant next. This is going to be our second big body of the day. It's going to be Clutch picked out there from ZenAku. Clutch on this map, again, not a super duper common pick. You can often see Clutch, there's a lot more open space. So although Clutch has the mobility and the movement to fly around the map, which we often see thanks to players like Razy, you know, who's really kind of championing that champion. There's a lot of open space which exploits the weakness of a Clutch. So I kind of think ZenAku, you definitely understand. Look, you understand why he's picked it, because Clutch can fly around the map. If you get good momentum, it's speed. It's speed. The shield on things like Mega is really scary, because, you know, if you just get caught somewhere where there's not much escape routes and he's got the shield wall activated, he's going to chase you down. You can't get away from him. But with there being the highest amount of open space means he's free to rails. And rails have been something, I mean, throughout the entire course of that map that Effortless has had a pretty decent time with so far.
Yeah, Clutch, you know, for some people at the top of your mind, you think large target, large hitbox, should be okay, depending on what happens. You could see it like that, yes. For the LG and for the rails, yeah, you can do a lot of defensive chip damage and push him when needs to. But as soon as the Clutch has the advantage in the upper hand, you need to seriously be careful, because with the jumps and the speed and the mobility he has, it's so difficult to get away from. It's basically one of those scenarios where one wrong move against a Clutch and there's a good chance you're done for. It's I've seen it plenty of times. Like I said earlier, Razy, he's known for choosing those Clutch champions. But my word, I'm curious to see what ZenAku's going to do with the Clutch, because I am quite curious to see what they do on certain maps. Normally you see it on the same maps all the time, left, right, and center, but this time it's slightly different. I've only seen it twice. I think this is the second time I've seen a Clutch in Blood Covenant.
It demands a lot of, I think, a lot of good accuracy from the Clutch player. The reality is you are easier to hit than any champion in the game. So, you know, if an LG is going to hit for max damage, it's going to happen. If they're even likely to hit a rail, you kind of have to bet that it's going to happen, which means that you got to hit your shots. That's what I'm a little bit worried about, because he's had a bit of difficulty with that on Fail, where he wasn't quite able to maximize the fights perhaps the way he could. So we'll see if there's going to be a little bit of improvement here, because Clutch demands it. Let's go, Blood Covenant.
Yeah, we'll have to see what we can do here. I'm going to start off with ZenAku to see if he does get the advantage he so desperately needs to try and capitalize on any frags further. Already, Lava at this point have got a great stack, but Effortless isn't too far behind him.
Not at all. We have to look at the weapons too. He's just got access to a rail, but he had to take a rail's currency. He's looking for one of those shots, gets a little bit of a exit shot. ZenAku keeping the stack kind of even right now. At this stage, it's the speed. ZenAku using that air dash, put himself in position. But now, yeah, kind of interesting to see who's going to get the upper hand first, I think. Lethal.
Yeah, well, I like that as well. He's delayed the heavy enough to make sure. It's already delayed so much at this point. It's actually quite a surprise, already by 19 seconds. But now, they're both playing the patient game, just playing the passive to see if they can hear each other out, but directly above each other here. But will Effortless see him? No, he won't, but ZenAku does get the first shot. but will get away from the time being. My word, Effortless is quite lucky there. Even though he had the height advantage, he couldn't really see exactly where he was, but ZenAku just managed to see him barely from the top. But surely this could be the first frag, and yes it is, and a lovely rail to clean up the first frag of this map.
Yeah, that missed shot was going to be punished, and then some from ZenAku. And this is that presence you kind of talk about when Clutch establishes that momentum. It puts you in a really tricky position, but again, the large lad, vulnerable to the nails. And his stack just disappeared in that fight. Effortless, confident, and he stands true, 1-1 so far. But I mean, at this point, I'm going to go shift over and check out some ZenAku, see how he approaches this one here. Because Effortless, he's playing a lot slower because he kind of has to. Against a Clutch, you can't really be caught flying around the map at the same rate as him because at the end of the day, it's his stack combined with his movement that makes him so scary. Even if he doesn't have a shield wall, if he's got a massive stack to work with, looks like he's actually trying to establish something. ZenAku jumping down at possibly a bad time there. I think taking a lot of damage on the way down. And before he could even get anything going, he was dead.
Was a little bit of a shame there, but this could be a chance for him to try and trade off that frag, but decides to back off for the time being. Completely understandable. Does expect him to go through the telly, but it won't be the case as Effortless will duke him and go all the way round with ZenAku on top rocks, waiting for him to go for that rail, which is a great prediction there. Gets the heavy on top of it, but he hasn't got an LG. He hasn't got an LG of his own, so he can't really do much apart from trying to get a direct rocket, but in that kind of position, it's so difficult to do that. ZenAku's going to be kicking himself a little bit, but now it gets that first rail. Could easily push in here, but it's stopping him from getting those rockets. My word, it's already been quite frightful here, as we'll save that 28 HP. ZenAku needs to try and stay alive and back off to fight for another day.
Man, it really is a feels bad moment every time you get caught on the stairs. Any map that has stairs and you get caught movement by like an LG and you get stuck, it's like, okay, well, part one, accepting your death. Just doesn't feel very good. ZenAku, unfortunately, had to feel the sting and fresh off the spawn. Another issue where if he doesn't have the weapons and he can't really bully his way into a fight, you have to retreat. But again, you're easy to hit. ZenAku, he's having to run away and use every tool available to him. He is running for his life right now. But you can see Effortless. He's always able to head him off. Perfect positioning, and ZenAku just caught not knowing where to run.
That was a real shame earlier, just not having that LG to give himself a little bit of a favour, but my words. Effortless is just on an absolute tear right now. Back-to-back frags within the minute mark. And ZenAku's just running out of options here. He's trying to at least get himself going and abuse Clutch's mechanics, but he hasn't really been given much opportunity. If Effortless is railing like this, then what can you do here?
It's always one side of the coin or the other when it comes to Clutch. There is no middle ground. ZenAku, he is a real... Like, he has the know-how for this champion, right? We're not saying at all that he's lacking in any way. It's just, you get to realize that this champion is... He either stomps or he gets stomped a lot of the time. It's just the nature of just how you have to approach a champion of this size. And ZenAku... How many of these frags, Effortless, he's playing the matchup perfectly. He knows that, look, if I get a frag here, I have to be aggressive. You have to put the pressure on. You can't really allow Clutch to maintain anything at all, because if you catch Clutch off spawn with only starting weapons and he has, like, no shield wall, he's pretty much easy pickings. You're not going to miss anything important here. And so far, Effortless is continuing to keep ZenAku down and out.
Yeah, it seems like I think he forgot me. No, I'm left for the rail, but it doesn't matter. He stopped up and loaded and ready to push on this next fight straight away. But that could be ZenAku's opportunity. But from Rocket, from where he was falling down, he couldn't really get it off to try and trade that kill. To see what ZenAku can do now, see what his options are. But Effortless at this point in time has got his stack back up nicely, and ZenAku's just kind of like feels like he's on the back foot, but at the same time can't figure out how to actually push through on Effortless. But look at the LG from Effortless once again to try and clean up with the rail, but does have that heavy machine gun to try and clean up a little bit further. Doesn't look to risk the rail anyway, but just get a few shots in, and look how weak ZenAku is. He's trying to get away, but Effortless is just absolutely on him, not giving him any room to breathe, and he's just waiting to see if he can pull off that rail shot. Decides to dart, try and finish him off, but he doesn't, as ZenAku just in time gets that mega. This hopefully could be an opportunity now for ZenAku to get something going here.
And that was a really cool play into the vertical juggle at the same time. Unfortunately, you kind of feel like that might be one of those small victories over an overall victory that Effortless is extremely likely to take at this rate. He's just had a hard time getting himself around the map and making it matter. He's getting some good damage. Oh, a little bit of the mining drill kind of functions like an LG, but with way more range. But damage. Damage, damage, damage. That's what it's all about. And Effortless has had no troubles hitting ZenAku with maximum as often as possible.
This is just disgusting, Effortless, so far. Even earlier, you saw just then when he went up the lift to go for the not go for the mega, but to try and take out ZenAku. Normally, most players will just bounce back, or at least try and head back at that point and go for the tele, or just try and go around to the rockets. But instead, he just takes a huge risk, and a lot of his risks have been paying off. He's been caught off guard quite a lot. But right now, Effortless is on 22 HP. ZenAku is trying to clean up, but I don't think he'll be able to here. He's trying to find him, but my word, that was a lovely frag there from Effortless.
That was a trade, but not the kind of trade you want. Trading the Pika for the frag is not really best case scenario. ZenAku has a massive stack, but again, low on ammo. Choosing to go in here. Press the advantage. Reaching that point where he's got to try and make something happen, but he's clutch. He's vulnerable to the spread. Effortless is going to drop. But, I mean, we have to look at the clock now, don't we, Lethal? There's less than 3 minutes, and Effortless, he's got a spawn near Mega. He's able to kind of just push ZenAku away. And it's been... You know, sometimes you try not to talk about champions too much during these maps. I mean, they are, you know, the longer we go, they are starting to matter a great deal because it's stack and movement and stuff like that. But with Clutch in particular, it is always down to how the opponent plays that matchup. If they don't play the matchup very well, they get overwhelmed. If they're composed, it's an entirely different story. Clutch is a rapid-fire champion. He's all over the place. And he's so dangerous in those modes where, you know, you could probably, I imagine, pub stop with the champion quite easily. But in this style of play where Effortless, there's just no nerves. He's not being intimidated by this champion. And he's playing the matchup super well. It just, ZenAku is the one that is struggling. And he is struggling hard to get his foot on the ground.
Yeah, it's unheard of. I think you can see from Effortless's point of view, it's the fact that he was ready to at least try and figure out a game plan to deal with this clutch. Because with some champions, yeah, fair enough, you can rely more on your game sense, on your initiative to make certain decisions and situations. But even against the clutch, it's very difficult. But he's been keeping his distance every single time. As soon as there's a couple of rails off, he does try and capitalize there. But ZenAku is just trying to get at least something going. He's only on 27 HP, but even then, from that rocket, Effortless is heavily damaged as well at that point. But you saw there, Pika Effortless trying to finish off. It's not the case. ZenAku now is trying to clean him up with a rail, just trying to get a few defensive rockets down. But my word, this fight's been going on for quite a while. But finally, Effortless does
1 minute warning.
put away as ZenAku does go for the top rockets to see where he's gone. But at least he may have a free heavy going forward. But it's just a little bit too late here. 50 seconds, 6 frags? I don't think so.
Definitely not. And at this point, victory lap for Effortless, who's going to make a 2-0 in the series so far, and that's just going to be a bonus frag. At this point, it's going to be just business as usual, I think. But there is that element of movement. The Pika has had pretty much no bearing in this matchup at all. It has come down to that crouch slide and the fact that Effortless, he's able to kind of chase, and even if he's not able to get those close range fights, he is at least fast enough where he can just pick those angles. You know, those positions where ZenAku's trying to escape, that one little bonus rail right before he goes around a corner, it's consistently landing, and it's the kind of stuff that Effortless has it's been making chase, really. There's not really too much to take away from this map, I don't think, other than that Effortless played the matchup almost perfectly. And when you play off against a clutch and the momentum just isn't in clutch's favor, he's one of the bigger champions that can't really get back into the fight. And we even see that with the likes of Razy, who is said to be, you know, the best clutch on the planet at the moment. Even he has those maps where if he gets that kind of early frag situation where he's the one that gets put on the back foot early on, you can just bully this champion the same way he bullies you, really. And that was just really another case in point example of that, I think.
Just a schoolyard bully, isn't he? How dare you? How dare you contest everything?
Normally that's what he does. That's normally what Clutch does, right? Either he bullies you or he gets bullied. It's like one extreme or the other. There's like zero middle ground in that situation. But that is going to result in a 2-0 for Effortless. And now final map and final big body of the set. So ZenAku's going to be going in with Scale Bearer at last. We'll see how this one works out. But Effortless, he's just been playing cleaner, hasn't he? There's just been a much more sort of calculated element to how Effortless is approaching this. And I even remember we would see a lot more movement coming out from Effortless in the earlier stages of Quake Pro League, and he's going a lot more for some of those kind of traditional champions. He's playing a lot more on like a fundamental level, and he is growing from strength to strength. ZenAku is kind of just continuing his air of just not really, I think, being able to hit his stride yet in Quake Pro League. This is an opportunity for him to get at least one kind of bonus map, so he's not going to suffer a 3-0. That's never a good thing, because at the end of the day, someone gets a 3-0, they get loads of points. If you get 3-0'd, you get 0 points, and no one wants to be in that position.
No, not really. It's not really my cup of tea, I'm not going to lie, in terms of the whole point system. But you even have to go back to that second map. There was a 2,400 damage difference compared to both of those players, and he fought Clutch in every fight perfectly how you should do against a Clutch. At least be medium to long range, and then when you have the opportunity and your opportunity strikes, go for it. Just do everything you can, because the Clutch will do the exact same thing. But it was so difficult. For ZenAku, it has made his life absolute hell. It just made his life not too easy, and he just didn't miss a rail. And it wasn't because of the hitbox or anything like that. It's just his movement and his pace, and just caught him off guard in so many situations. It just worked out for him, and I'm surprised to see a scoreline against a Clutch like that.
Well, we're about to load into our third map now, so it's going to be Awoken Ranger versus Scale Bearer. We're going to see if Effortless is going to score an impressive 3-0, which is going to be great for him, or if ZenAku finally has an opportunity to prove himself today and see if this Scale Bearer is going to get the job done. So almost immediately a fight's going to break out. ZenAku doesn't have rail side, though, which is unfortunate for him. He's going to go towards and take rail almost immediately, which you kind of have to do. If you are one of those larger champions, you can't allow that damage to contest if you're going to get railed all day. And much like the last map, you mentioned the lack of damage that ZenAku was able to obtain. If you're spending the whole map running away from someone and trying to just survive, that was cute, but not enough. What an interesting fight that was.
Do you know what? I was literally just about to point out that with the bull rush, at least he's got the orb to try and get away, and he did the exact same thing, but it didn't go in his favour this time round, but he made the effort to try anyway. But look at this, ZenAku just trying to get everything he can going. He's only on 28 HP, but he knows that with that light armor and the health wall to kind of help himself a little bit more, he just needs to do a little bit more damage. Sadly, that one rail was so important to at least edge himself further and increase his lead, but it's not the case. But that heavy will be coming shortly, and ZenAku's going to try and go straight forward, but he didn't pick it up. Sadly, he didn't actually burn it, and Effortless managed to pick that up in the end.
You don't want to give up a free frag this late in the series. Not when Effortless has been riding as much momentum as he has been. And an immediate rail just shy of a ring out, in fact. That would have been bad to worse, absolutely. But this is a funky situation, because the next item to spawn is actually the heavy and not the mega. So in this position, ZenAku wouldn't be able to kind of establish himself there. He is going to sit near mega anyway, I think, conceding the heavy if need be, just to make sure he's safe to take it. But, oh no! Caught round the back! This should be a fight. Who's it going to go in the favor of? Oh, gets the mega on the way! This should be a clean pickup. The second we saw Effortless go in for that orb, I was a little bit nervous, but ZenAku saving the bull rush for a rainy day, and Effortless using his escape option to go in, and he had nothing to fight back.
Yeah, I don't even know how he came out on top of that. I do, but it just shouldn't have happened. Like, without orb, I think with most players, normally they assume it's just going to be a fake out. Lucky enough, it didn't matter, because ZenAku just watched and made sure the orb came through anyway, because he had no reason not to. Normally see it faked out mid-fight, which is understandable. But even at this point, Effortless on 51 HP, ZenAku with that top mid control, and the rail nicely done. I want to see what Effortless can do here. ZenAku with the heavy, he's going to try and get to an LG fight, but it's pulled back for the time being. And I think that is the right choice to make for now. He does have that bull rush if needs be. He's going to try and play this quietly. He's playing the audio game. He knows that he's just below him at this point. But is he going to go towards him, or is he going to go up lift to go for that? Oh, lovely rail there. Nice little peak shot there from ZenAku. He's going to try and finish things up. But both of them do have a similar stack here. 19 HP, but it doesn't matter. Does have the mega, and we'll try and get away for the time being.
ZenAku's got good presence, and he's got good positioning too. Sitting in the middle of Awoken, you get so many just important audio cues. And with ZenAku even sitting on a 1 frag lead in this situation where he's got the bull rush locked and loaded, He had a favorable fight before where he was able to kind of force the orb out of Effortless first, and then the second that escape option is gone, the Bull Rush is unlikely to miss. Awoken being such a tiny map means that, you know, you can set those interesting traps, some wonderful damage for Tribal. That is 70 in the blink of an eye, and here comes a Scale Bearer from behind. Watch your ass. And here we go. Finally, ZenAku has established himself. This is the first time, really, in all of the maps, Lethal, that we've seen him establish some threat where he is the one in charge.
Yeah, apologies. Yeah, ZenAku just been absolutely on form. His stack is absolutely huge at this point, and Effortless is just fighting for his life, fighting for survival rather than trying to get a frag. But as I say that, though, he's done such a huge amount of damage and lovely tribal shot there from Effortless. I really felt like that was it. It was going to be another frag for ZenAku at that point, but Effortless is just trying to stay alive once again. Lovely. Oh, my word. And he ties things up.
You almost feel like the fact that ZenAku hit a 100 damage rocket in that exchange was what got him killed, because it made him press. It made him establish the pressure, and oh, good rail. Man, these guys are swinging right now. 4 to 5? This has been nice and close, but the back and forth frags have been impressive. Here comes some more rocket damage. Enough to make Effortless sweat. Now it's 6 frags for ZenAku. Looking good. Looking better than he has been. Gets another one off spawn. Bull rush. Can't finish it. Gets minimal damage on the SSG. But the final nail in the coffin, the second shot finally hits its mark.
It's literally so between these players. Managed to get heavy, gets a nice orb to try and go back around, but can Effortless finish him off? Yes, he does. After all that time, that was what, catch up, like 4 frags in space of not 4 minutes, 1 minute. It was literally absolute madness. As Effortless does get the mega and will take a little bit of a breather for the time being.
Yeah, it's hard to call right now. We've just hit 5 minutes. Half of this map is already gone. And these guys have come out swinging hard. Now, I'm checking out ZenAku. So establishing a little bit of that tribal, but it's not really enough to write home about the Bull Rush. Remember, it's not just about damage, it's about heavy damage mitigation as long as he's in that state, but it's not going to help him now. He has to just hope that Effortless is going to miss his shots. Effortless playing nice and safe. Why use a rail when the SSG's in play? ZenAku realizing that he can't escape, he has to stay there and fight, and there's 0% chance Effortless was missing. That was a free pickup.
ZenAku needs to keep this consistency here. He knows he's right at the bottom of the world rankings, and even if it's just a map, every little helps at this point. And as I say, that Effortless with a nice rail, but it will get rocket down a little bit here and there. But it's only on 47 HP, and ZenAku, nice clean up from him, does get the heavy to make things worse for Effortless, and ZenAku with that top mid control, and he's going to already try and flank around, get some nice rockets there from him, and again takes Effortless down. So he's just got to try and keep that lead, keep that stack, which he has done, and just keep himself out of trouble. But lovely Bull Rush there, and LG combo, my goodness. ZenAku just going absolutely off, spawn rail again. Going to try and push through once more to kind of clean up. Surely he will at this point with a beautiful LG. Yes, he does. With a tiny bit of HP to spare to try and get his stack back up to that heavy.
ZenAku trying to go for the heavy instead of the health bubble first. I think that was actually a really good choice. He had a health bubble in play, but rather than like wasting like the second it takes to diverge and take that, would have given Effortless an opportunity to maybe deny the heavy and then mount a comeback. Even if ZenAku lost a frag there and didn't trade, if he takes away the heavy, Effortless doesn't have the resources necessary to kind of get healthy again, and either a refrag happens, or he has to lose time trying to get his stack back up. A whole bunch of that stack was just taken roadkill for ZenAku, who's playing this map nice and well indeed. But it's been a good map for him so far, Lethal. I mean, he's just been playing these fights really well, getting some great frags off the spawn, and the use of the Bull Rush has been almost perfect. Nice presence on the important pickups as well. Another mega's going to go in his favor, and he's had a decent level of control all the way through. The fights have been going well too, hitting the shots he needs to. This finally is, you know, an opportunity ZenAku has desperately needed to just establish himself, for crying out loud. He's been getting bullied for 2 maps solid. This is the time to fight back, and he has done. Playing his cards right, this should be at least a bonus map. Dangerous, I know, this late into the Pro League, but you know, you need to get a victory more than a map win, but anything to just make himself feel good. Another roadkill. The Bull Rush just looking so good. And this should be a map win at last for ZenAku.
Yeah, it's like I said earlier, every little helps at this point, but his rockets and rails have just been absolutely on point. I've seen ZenAku actually play against Nosfer once before. Even though he lost that map, I did notice the difference that his aggression, his aim, everything was there in part of the package. Nosfer just basically edged him on some little scenarios, but he really is showing what he can do here. And I kind of felt like Effortless is giving up just a little bit. I think he realises that 17-7, 2 minutes left, probably not going to happen. ZenAku's got his huge stack, so it's just playground work for him at this point.
Yeah, and well, I think you're bang on the money. But what? Even if that was a strategy, you've got starting weapons, right? So that's just oh yeah, hang on a minute. Let me just quickly check my phone real quick, or something similar. Either way, it's I do think we have well and truly reached that point of no return. So Effortless. I think it's worth fighting back. I mean, every frag counts when you count these things. But at this point, ZenAku just give himself anything to feel good at the end of a series, I suppose. It has been interesting seeing a player rock all 3 large champions for all of the maps. I know the clutch was a bit of a disaster. It did not work out for him at all. But the Veil of Nath, it's been how many situations could have gone different for him? It was unfavorable in terms of ZenAku. Because you look at Veil of Nath, how many times was he in a really decent position to get damage? He just couldn't land the damage. And that was the whole point of picking kill, was it's damage from the grenade on top of all the other weapons you should be hitting. And he's missing a lot of shots. And it gave Effortless an opening that perhaps he shouldn't have had, or, those kind of situations where Effortless can kind of run away with it, which you don't normally see with that kind of matchup. Clutch went to pot. Scale Bearer has been an immaculate pick, and it has destroyed Effortless on this final map. So you kind of just look at how each of the maps went. ZenAku, there were opportunities for it to work a lot better than it did.
Yeah, it's quite mad because, the last couple of times we've seen a clutch in play, it hasn't really done his favour.
Have you ever done a two-piece combo with yourself before, Harry?
I don't think I have, mate.
My God. I'm going to just hit you with this rail and then just walk into you real quick. GG's for ZenAku, who's going to get the final map. But unfortunately, it wasn't enough to get the overall win.
No, the damage is very similar, even though the scoreline says otherwise. 19 to 9 in favour of ZenAku, but you saw from there that it was very hard to say the least. But this is the talking point with ZenAku. He's not taking series, but he's taking maps. So it shows that, he's definitely more than his own right earned his space in the Pro League. He's doing really well. He is improving as we go week by week. But when's the match wins going to come in? When's the series wins going to come out to play? The match wins are good. At least you're getting a few points here and there, but it's not going to be enough. When you're that far down the leaderboard, you have to win a lot of the series, and sometimes even as much as 3-0.
Yeah, it's the nature of how Quake Pro League is kind of structured, really, that if you are a late bloomer and you've joined the party into stage 3, which is what ZenAku has done, there's a lot of expectation on you because a lot of the competition, they've already got a decent amount of points already, so you've got a lot of catching up to do. But if while having to catch up, you at the same time, need to find your footing. How many players in Quake can say they've ever been in the Quake Pro League and they've been in that kind of weekly format where it's very serious online competition against the best players from your side of the world? There's a lot to learn and there's a lot to absorb, and ZenAku currently is in that absorption process. He is finding his feet. He's up against Effortless, who has been in the Quake Pro League since stage 1. And he's been doing just fine at the same time too, right? He's well seasoned at this stage, even though we're stage 3. It's not even the last stage at this point. So ZenAku, he's kind of naturally at a disadvantage the way things are working, and there is a lot of demand that he learns the ropes and fast because everyone else is already there and he has to catch up. And clearly, we're just really seeing that in action. I think the later we reach, the better he'll look. But now he is in that process of just coming to grips with how Pro League is entirely built, I suppose.
Yeah, we'll see more from him probably towards the end of stage 3 and stage 4. That's when we'll see more of the consistency and what ZenAku can really do and what he's up against. You've got to remember, every single one of these players, or so not every single one of them, most of them have been here for 25 weeks, including this week, and 2 stage finals. He's been to 1 stage final and he's only done 5 weeks. So I think from what he's doing so far, at least taking maps, that's perfectly fine. But as long as he carries on grinding and works on his mechanics and his fundamentals in terms of what he wants to do with his research, I think he should be fine. It's like I said earlier, I reckon towards the later stages of stage 3, it should be fine. If he does stay in it for stage 4, we'll see a lot more of him, because some of these players, especially in the North American scene, didn't really come out of the woodwork until the halfway stage 2 mark.
Oh, no, you are bang on the money with that. The Americas in general has had that learning process just as much. However, speaking of the Americas, it's going to be Sib and Saigib up next for our next series of Week 5, Stage 3 Quake Pro League. We're going to go for a quick break and set things up. Thanks for joining us so far, but we will be back in a few minutes' time. See you soon.